Well, I need to have a difficult conversation. People like to share their wins. There's a lot of victory celebrations on social media, but that's not always the case. We're not always winning. Even when you see the mistakes, it's usually just some minor portion of the mistake that they were able to salvage at the end. Can't salvage everything. So this video starts with me just ripping some 2x4s to try and make them square so that the reference for the platform that I'm building for my router sled from Woodpeckers is nice and level and flat. Removing all those imperfections and taking that little bit of time should make a big difference in the end. And I just pocket hold it together because this thing doesn't need to be pretty, but pocket holes are plenty strong for the application that we have here. Before I made any furniture, I used to rap and I used to produce music. And there was a group of us and we called ourselves KOTR, Nights at Around. And one of the members was a kid named Throwback. Through us making music together and he stayed at my house for a while, we became like really close. We became family. I'm not trying to become too depressed while telling this story. A few years ago, Throwback passed away. Once Throwback passed, I didn't have the energy, the enthusiasm to make music anymore. And that's kind of how I found my way to building furniture. And I always knew that once I got good at building furniture, that I would make a piece of furniture that I would dedicate to Throwback. And because we were musicians and we produced music, I thought that a music production desk would be like a good homage to my brother. I have a flattened board, and I'm not gonna make you watch me do both sides of this material. That would be silly. I just rip it down the middle so that I can get that feature that most resin tables have. This desk is designed to have a river in it. I thought the best way to honor his memory would be to give the desk away to someone within the community who was deserving, but maybe couldn't afford the desk. Since I'm getting ready to pour epoxy into the form, what I'm trying to do is make sure that the form is level. I shimmed up some areas that weren't quite, and it's level front to back, side to side at the back, across the diagonals, right? Like checking as many vertices as possible just to make sure I got it and avoid as many problems as possible. I've silicone caulked all the seams. This is my first real epoxy pour, so fingers crossed this goes well. We'll see. I don't know how well this stuff actually works, but I'm going to use the silicone lubricant to try and keep the epoxy from sticking to the forms. And I just realized I should be wearing a mask. I'm going to use some India ink, just some super black, just to give it that nice rich color. The problem is, as I got closer to completing this desk, it just made me sad. I don't know how else to say it. I could not bring myself to finish it. One of the tips that I got over on Instagram, and if you're not following me there, check me out over there, was to make sure I tie the slabs down because the weight of the slabs is not enough. They're going to float in the river of epoxy, so to keep that from happening, make sure you brace these things down. So that's what you'll see me doing. For the river, we're going to be using some Total Boat Thick Set Fathom. That is a 2-part epoxy, the resin and the hardener. The thick set I'm using because I want to do this all in one pour, and I'm tinting it black because I'm too nervous to try and do a clear pour because I just don't have that kind of experience and know-how. Then it's back to the router sled to reflatten this and remove all the excess epoxy from it. I was smart enough to put this up on these Craig portable workbenches. I kind of hate these workbenches, but for this specific use case, they were excellent. Can't complain. After that, you see me drawing those lines just to create a guide for when I'm sanding and then track sawing off all the excess material. I'm using the Woodpeckers parallel guide system to make sure that I'm ripping a parallel edge on the other side and then just squaring off the opposite ends One of the things I hear all the time on my social media is that a straight edge and a guide are exactly the same as a track saw. And let me just tell you, they're not. A straight edge and a guide is plenty good if that's what you need to get by with. But a track saw is one of the best investments you can make. This one is from Festool, but plenty of companies make cheaper track saws. This is just the nicest one, so I went with this one. So the pieces that you see me jointing and planing now are going to end up being the legs for the table. I'm going to cut these out using my Avid CNC, and it's designed to look like Greco-Roman architecture. So it's supposed to look like the columns holding up the Colosseum as an homage to the person that passed away. Inspired from Vectrex to create the design. All I did was create a few simple shapes using their shape builders here. So I started with a rectangle, then drew a rounded rectangle and another one and just merged the shapes till I got this. It was really straightforward. I actually had a couple questions about the best way to treat the bug holes and like the soft pieces that were in the wood. So I reached out to a buddy of mine to get his opinion, and he told me how to fix it.
Yeah, so the little bug holes with the powder in them, generally what I do is I'll take like a nylon wheel. A wire wheel will probably scratch that maple, but I'll take a nylon wheel, remove all that soot, all that powder, fill it with just a clear epoxy. If you use a penetrating epoxy or a thin CA glue, it'll probably solidify it and it'll be good enough and it won't go anywhere. But I always worry that it might flake out eventually. So I just prefer to remove it with a nylon wheel, fill it with clear epoxy, and that way I know it'll be good.
If you see on the sample, there's some molding that I added to the top and bottom, and I like it, so I'm gonna do it on these legs also, but I need to figure out, well, not figure out, I need to make the molding. So I have some leftover scraps from the cutoffs from making this on the CNC. But those are kind of nice, and I don't want to use those. So let's see what we got over here. These are pin nailed onto the legs, and I just used a bit of Titebond 3 and some pins to pin it while the glue dries. Nothing too complicated there. So you can kind of see the desk coming together and starting to take shape now. All I really need to do is lay out how the base is going to be attached to the top, and then I would start adding all the extras, right? So like a monitor riser or something for the studio monitors to sit on. Those are speakers for when you're producing music and things like that. Unfortunately, I never got that far. So this is me just like tapping threaded inserts and laying on the table to get it done. So it's weird, but that's it. That's as far as I got in the desk build. I would walk into my shop day after day and the desk would be sitting there. This is just like a therapeutic outlet for me, and I think woodworking in general helps me like release some of that stress and like feel better. But this didn't make me feel better, so I couldn't finish it. And I hope one day I'll be able to post a video showing the rest of the build and show you guys the person who I donated the desk to and all the accessories and all that stuff. So hopefully you guys understand just an incomplete video and, you know, stick with me. I'll show you more cool builds if you want to see me build something. Again, there's a black walnut dining table here. Thank you guys for all of the support and everything. It's been amazing. The channel is growing faster than I could have imagined. So sincerely, thank you. Peace.